The Splitting Hairs Podcast. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Welcome to the Splitting Hairs Podcast, where San Diego's not a state, Bison is spelled with an S, and Wile E. Coyote never wins. Joined today here by my guys, Thomas Stacker, Scott Wagner, and our special guest, Stone Labanowitz. Fellas, thanks for joining on this Friday night football edition of the Splitting Hairs Pod.
Always good to be here, especially on marker week.
That's right. Well, let's jump right into it right after I announce our sponsors. So Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro, always a great partner to have. We're not at home this week, but if you're not making the trek up to Fargo, make sure you get into the bistro, grab you some fresh farm-to-table eats, and make sure you get your caffeine juice, your go juice, for the primetime matchup we got at 7 p.m. on ESPN2 in Fargo. It should be a great time, great weekend. Make sure you get out and support them. They have their new seasonal menu out and ready to rock. So go to Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro. Also want to shout out our title sponsor, Utemark Insurance. If you've got any life or health insurance needs, they have plans that work with Medicare. So give them a shout out. They're all over South Central Minnesota and dabble in the southern part of South Dakota as well. So reach out to them for any insurance needs, because you never know what life will throw at you. You always want to be prepared. Get with your friendly agent over at Utemark Insurance today. So fellas, normally we do a recap from the previous week, but like I was just chatting with Scott about, there's not much to recap. The boys did it with their pads, putting quite a few points up on the board, scoring almost every possession, even when they had their third stringers in. It was a sight to behold on Saturday. Just your general impressions and thoughts on that game.
As the young kids say, BTA, belt to you know what. Bad look for those dudes. I mean, but it was good to see the Jacks take care of guys, take care of a team like that the way they're supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say there's not really too much to say about it. Defense looked great. Offense, run game still looking great. I still think that there are some things in the pass game that leave some things to be desired, but I mean, for the most part, you know, you can't really complain about a victory like that.
Indeed, right. We got Stoney on here today to talk about. Sorry, Scott, real quick. We got Stoney on here today to talk about the quarterback play and things we can do on the offensive side of the ball coming into this primetime matchup. But we'll definitely get those things squared away. Scott, what are your takes, man?
It was, I mean, you don't want to pile on Youngstown too bad. They're struggling a little bit. They aren't.
I'll do it. They're terrible.
All right, you go ahead. No, they're struggling a lot more than they wanted to, and we played really well. It was just a combination of a team not where they want to be and a team that we're on the upswing. We're starting to play really well. Obviously, run the ball for 400 plus yards, and pass game, like Stack said, was probably a little bit out of sync right away. We maybe didn't hit on a couple passes we wanted to, but it looked like Mark settled in pretty well. And when you're running the ball like we ran the ball, you don't really need to force anything. So, I mean, overall, they looked really good. It's nice to be up 7-0 in 12 seconds in too. So,
yeah. I think for me, it was the average of pop for the Jacks when they were running. Chase Mason, 32 a pop. I mean, I can keep going down that list, but it felt like they got what they wanted and explosive plays all over the place. And that was definitely Jimmy's takeaway. As soon as you wrap games now in 2022, 3, and 2024, it's all about explosive plays, a lot of the big plays and all the turnovers and those key plays. Obviously, they do that really well, but I think the confidence they have running the ball they didn't have in week 1 and week 2. And I know it's Youngstown, and I know we can go down some of the schools that aren't really competitive, but I think this team scared you guys and scared Jacks fans running the ball early on. Like, you know, who's Gus going to be? We know who he is as fans and people who watch him keenly, but we don't know who's going to be in the grand scheme of things. And to watch him come along and these guys come along, it's the perfect time that they're hitting on all cylinders as far as running on. Because we're going to get into passing, and I'm gonna go, and I'm not going to hold anything back. But from at least ground and pound perspective, the Jacks are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, agreed. And for those just joining, Stone Labanowitz with FCS Nation Radio and Kevin, all the great work they do. Go check out their pod. Stone's joining us today to provide expert analysis on all things offense and just FCS in general. And well, we know where the money's made, right? We know where the money's made. That's cool. Well, from just my perspective of the game, you win in the trenches, running at 7.32 yards per carry this season is always going to get done. It's nuts. Now, that is against subpar competition. Stone, you guys were also down there for the SLU game. They got a nice dub on Saturday, so don't want to take anything away from the fellas on scholarship down in Hammond. But that being said, it kind of is a Power 2 subdivision, right? Big Sky, Missouri Valley Football Conference, and some teams down south that are going to make some waves too. What's your general analysis on the subdivision as a whole, Stone?
I think it's super top heavy. I do think the top is heavier than it has been in the past. I think when you go down the list of schools 1 through 10, I think, and I'm so sorry, I apologize to bring up a SoCon team this early, but Mercer's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mercer's not a bad team, and you guys have history with Mercer and we know how that goes. It's a lot to a little, and it's ugly, but I think this team defensively is kind of morphed into a Valley defense. I think when you look at like a SEMO team, this team has found a way to morph their offense into a Big Sky offense. I think some of these teams on the cusp, like Tarleton, they're not contenders, but you watch them start to spread it out and score the 45, 50 points a week like a Big Sky team does. So these teams are starting to kind of mirror what they do in the Valley and what they do in the Big Sky. It's super top heavy, and I think this is the first time in 2-3 years where we actually think Montana State can do it. This is the first time in 2 or 3 years where Montana sucks on paper and the tape when you break all of that down. I like where this top 25 is at right now. There's so much offense. I typically, when I start cracking tape, and it's not because I'm a quarterback, but I do think in the FCS, you need a quarterback and you need some skill players. You need some Amar Johnsons who are going to pop runs and find explosive plays if you actually want to win a national championship. So I love how top heavy it is this year and how good these offenses are in the FCS in general.
Yeah, certainly. And then you look at ETSU, right? Playing at home against the Homeless Cows, affectionately named by the contingent in Brookings. They did a damn good job of preparing, putting a nice scheme together, slowing down what the NDSU squad wanted to do offensively, and having to pull out a nail biter late, which the brand, as they say, the brand is good for some points typically, but that wasn't a brand showing there late. I don't think ETSU crumbled because NDSU was on the other sideline. I think they just executed better late than ETSU did. So there's a lot yet still to discover in the FCS subdivision in terms of who's going to emerge, and the playoff picture is going to come into better complexion as we move here into the meat of the schedule. And that brings us to Saturday night's contest in prime time on ESPN2 for the Dakota Marker. And fellas, this one really has kind of changed over the years. When we first got into the subdivision, the Jacks took care of business in a nail biter in the old Coughlin Alumni Stadium for that one in 2004. 2005, 2006, North Dakota State just had a little more depth, had a little more talent, and was able to pull away in those contests. 7 through 9, we got them. That was the squad that I was on. We had 3 straight. Head coach Jimmy Rogers was a part of that contingent. Like he said, never touched the rock because he wanted to watch the jubilation of his teammates. And Jimmy Rogers very much of the opinion that the most important game is the next one. Reached out to him this week. I was like, any thoughts, anything going through your mind? He's like, yeah, beat NDSU. He's a man of a few words and high focus. So we know he's got the boys ready as we're on game day eve here to take care of business. When you look at the matchup, what are some of the most intriguing points to you, Stack? What are you looking at?
They got 2 redshirt freshmen on their O-line, and I'm interested to see what they're going to do there. Like I told you guys earlier, like their number one run play is inside zone, right? This isn't the same looking NDSU team where it's going to be 22 power, maybe that poker pass stuff. They like to spread it out a lot more. They're playing to Cam's strengths, and I think that's, why we're seeing him have the success that he is this year. But I would more so say like it's not really about what NDSU's offense is going to do. It's what North Dakota State's defense is about to do about our run game, I believe. I think on the back end, they're not as some of the better teams they've had. I don't think they're as good as those teams on the back end and up front. They got good guys like both their starting DNs, I think, are great players. Will Mostert and his brother have been there for a long time. They're good defensive tackles, but I don't know. I've been seeing the way our guys are on the ball. Like, you're gonna have to come with it. Like, and I know they haven't beat the Jacks since Donald Trump was president, since before COVID,
love that.
Since before I even had dreads, and now they're almost down to my back. Like, it's been a while since North Dakota State beat them. I know guys like Cam and Will, this has been marked off in their calendar for a whole year now. Mm-hmm. And at some point, I like to tell the guys, like, it's not about the Dakota marker, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's not about like, oh, Sorry. It's not about Dakota marker and touching the rock and all that. It's about beating North Dakota State. I think that's my favorite part of it every single time. Like, it's about seeing them really sick because, like, they like to win a lot of national championships and stuff like that. And you really don't get many times where you really get to see North Dakota State fans sick like that. You know what I'm saying? So looking forward to our guys ruining someone's Saturday tomorrow.
Yeah. What's your take, Scott? What do you like about this matchup?
I'm just kind of along the same lines as Stack. What are they going to do about Jared DePriest? And when Randy Kay runs a stunt, what's their interior offensive line going to do? It'll be really fun, I think, to see him scramble and try to remember what they prepared for, especially when we bring in like a Chase Mason. And just, I don't know if they'll be fired up. They'll bring the juice. I'm just not sure. It'll be interesting to see how they prepared for all of the weapons they saw last week. I don't know who I was listening to. I think it was Stone and Kevin. We emptied the clip, they said, on Youngstown to make them prepare for everything. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to cover everything that they think we're going to throw at them. I don't know what we're going to do, but it's a lot to prepare for when we have so many weapons.
Yeah, that's well put. That's well put. I think when you look at your greatest ability being your availability, we got some guys down. It'll be interesting to see who steps up and who can contribute in their stead, or if Tucker Large suits up. He's a gamer. He's been battling some injuries this year. Be great to have him in the secondary. Herder has stepped up big. We've obviously got guys that are making plays. Young Buck, Colton Tilford is in there doing his thing. Obviously on the edge, we got Colby Humphrey, who's been kind of a wild card that we didn't even know how he would adjust and acclimate to a new scheme, a new defense. And he's really made a name for himself, earning some valuable PT across from who really is playing the best defensive back ball, I think, in the subdivision right now in Dallas Beanham. So Dallas will have his work cut out for him. But then you look at the flip side, Wisniewski's out, right? Yeah. That's been tough for the Bison. And they've, in my opinion, I was kind of letting the Buffs have it early on in the year, saying that, it's one thing to go up against a ranked Oklahoma State team on their turf and kind of get the business given to you versus Colorado, who's got a ton of holes in their secondary, and they've never seen a run game quite like the Bison or the Missouri Valley, top-heavy teams can provide. But that being said, Colorado's really gotten off the schneid and got onto a hot start and made great adjustments. So I think the Bison have probably seen and been tested a bit more to this point than the Jacks. Stone, what are your thoughts on all that?
I love it all. And I think when you look at matchups and kind of what's key here, Stack's right, Scott's right. They're completely correct. It has everything to do with the trenches, because I think everybody has a game plan until you don't. And what's going to happen, I think, as we all know, this is going to be a 3-3, 7-7 score at the end of the first, and everyone's going to look at each other, and a coach is going to tell you right in the face, like, we're not changing a damn thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't need to tell you what the first, second play is coming out of the gates. We know exactly what it is. And it's what we do best. And it's going to be running the ball. And I think it obviously is in the trenches. And I hate to kind of I say explosive plays a lot. I'm probably going to let it slip 4 or 5 times tonight. And I kind of just made fun of Rodgers and coaches, just college football coaches in general, because that's the first thing they look at when the nerd with the stat sheet kind of gives it to them after the game. It's explosive plays. I think whoever wins the explosive plays battle here wins the ball game. And I don't think there's going to be many of them, but I think those are going to matter the most. And I think it's if a Wildy can get up top, hit an over route for 47-yard game and steal the 3 points or the 7 points that may be pivotal at the end of things. Can you get Amar Johnson the certain amount of touches? Can he pop one, right? Can he find a chunk play that puts them in position to take a 2-score lead? I think they're going to be, you can count them on one hand, the amount of explosive plays that are going to make a difference in this game, but I think that's what we're looking at here. And I think, of course, I'm going to come on here and talk about quarterbacks, and I do want you guys to be specific in asking questions because I've spent freaking 10 hours this week watching Mark and watching Cam and literally studying what they're good at and what they're bad at, what stresses them out, what are they comfortable doing. So I have a lot on that, but I think whoever plays a better game between Mark and Cam wins this game. Now that's saying nothing wise, but I think for us, the viewers, it's going to be super obvious. It's going to be super obvious. If Cam is 10 of 11 walking into the locker room at halftime, North Dakota State's going to be winning this game by 20 points. If Mark is 8 for 8 and has 2 touchdowns, they're going to be winning by 21 points. I think whatever quarterback behind center can find a rhythm early and hit his guys, and quarterback's job is easiest when you put the ball in your playmaker's hands. Whoever does that the most. And I love when Shaq stouted out that they're playing to Cam's strengths because that's what they're doing. Yeah. Him and Mark seem to just get outside the hashes, or at least both staffs want them to get outside the hashes because either of them can tuck it and go find you 8 and put you in a 2nd and 2. Or if it's a 2nd and down, put you in a 3rd and 2, and that's super manageable. You're going to bring in Kirby. I think what they're doing with Cam right now has to scare South Dakota State a little bit because I don't know if there's a quarterback playing as confidently as Cam Miller in the entire country. And we chatted before we got rolling here, Kyle, and you almost agreed to that. I think Cam secretly or silently is playing the most confident football behind center besides a guy that Jax fans listening right now would not have a damn clue who he is, like a Paxton DeLaurent or like a Will McElvain. Yeah. I mean, you guys saw him at UNI, but I don't know if there's anybody playing as smooth and as comfortable as ball as Cam Miller is right now.
Yeah, I would vehemently agree with that because I think when you look at Cam in 22, he was playing lights out in that game. And if past performance is any indicator of future success, I don't think you can hang every loss that they've had in this recent run on Cam. That being said, as he goes, the Bison are going to go, right? Because what do the Jacks like to do? They like to make you one-dimensional. I think they're going to try to force him off his spots. If the chain gang can shut down the run and let the linebackers flow and be disruptive, what's Cam going to do? Is he going to find his guys? I know Lance is kind of his outlet right now. So far in this season, he's going for about 11.9 yards per catch. He's got 418 receiving yards and 5 tugs. So he's been a nice little outlet for him. You got Shamar Brown, who's got 115 carries for 544 yards and 7 touchdowns. You know, what they want to do is nothing new to any teams in the Valley. They play their brand of football. They want to protect the football, but they want to be, it looks like under Polasek, they want to be a little bit more balanced instead of just constantly running down your throat, a la Montana States of the world, you know, taking Tommy Mellott or Cam Miller in this scenario and just running QB power with an inserted blocker. You know, I do like what you brought up, though. Are we going to see more of Mark in the run game? We've kind of pulled that back a little bit the past few weeks, sprinkled in some what I like to call the Gator back. For those of you who don't know what Gator means, look it up. But the Gator back in Chase Mason, right? He's been an absolute problem for teams so far this year, especially Youngstown. But this is no Youngstown. So who are we going to deploy to establish really that power run game that's not vacant, but just completely different in terms of the look and feel with no Isaiah Davis? So that'll be interesting to me. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And at the end of the day, it's trench warfare all day. These are the two most, I want to say, mentality influencing teams in terms of what they want to do to you and just break your spirit. So yeah, very interesting to see. Stack, you got anything to add?
This game is going to look so different from how it has like in the past. And I guess that's just kind of like what I want to get across. Like, this isn't going to look like how, like I said, like, it's not going to be, your gap scheme. Even, I mean, really from either of them, because, like, Jacks we haven't been like super heavy on power run game this year, but neither are they. I mean, I think it's going to come down to, this sounds lame to sound like a coach, but like really just execution, right? Because like they know what they want to do
Straight up
all day. Yeah. And like we know what we want to do. And it's just like, I think like how Brian mentioned, like I think a big difference is like what their O-line is going to do against the D-line that has that much experience. Like 2 redshirt freshmen on your O-line against guys who have played legit snaps for like, 5-6 seasons, guys who have played in national championship games, big games. Like these guys' first Dakota marker game, right? Now they've been hearing like, oh, I'm sure their coaches tell them like, bro, it's been years since we touched that. And I'm sure Cam is saying, bro, I haven't touched that my whole career. And Will Mostert and all those guys are saying that. So it's like, that's pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like Jared DePriest has been there before. Like our troops have been there before. You're rolling out a couple of guys that really ain't seen that like that, right? So, I mean, God bless you. I'm saying for at least that first quarter.
Right. I mean, that is something to take notice of and keep your eye on as the game progresses. I will say this: it is on their home turf, literally and figuratively, right? The Fargo Dome is no slouch. In years past, I think even Coach Stig said. It's good for about 7+ points, depending on the afternoon or the evening it's played. So the environment's going to be raucous. The students are going to be live, and those old men and women are going to be turning up in the Fargo Dome for the Bison. And I think one other thing to keep in mind is we got new coordinators manning the helm for South Dakota State. So I do want to get your take, Stone. You've had several coordinators in your day, right?
Oh yeah.
What's it like to adapt to? Maybe a little bit of tweakage in terminology. Maybe, a little bit like Zach said, we've been running a lot more zones, stretch zones, stuff like that this year. Passing game is yet to really show us what it's really capable of. What's that like when you're trying to adapt to new coordinators?
Yeah, I think where it's different than most in the Jack's sake is no matter who you are, no matter what you've done in the past, coming in or even getting elevated into a spot like this, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to be the reason this team isn't who they were a year before. So you're going to lean on what was on tape last year, what these kids are comfortable doing. Now, the one little gap and window that you do have is the new guys in the offensive line. And I think there's your opportunity to implement some new wrinkles and stuff. But I lean on what I've seen from Mark so far. And I don't think that – I'm trying to figure out a proper way to say this. I don't know if I want to piss everybody off or make everybody happy and feel really
say
good.
What you got to say. Say what you got to say.
Man.
Well, I hate you, Stack. That's what I really want to say. But I think for Mark, he just hasn't – there's not much to go off of. Nothing's different. Nothing looks new. There's nothing that he's done really well with his right arm. It all looks the same. Like when I hear trench warfare, it triggers me. That's what Stack didn't say ass. Stack didn't say ass earlier. Do you guys curse?
Let it fly.
Do
what you gotta do.
Let it fly.
What the fuck is going to be is trench warfare? I mean, I don't think there's anything X's and O's that like anybody should be looking out for or should be expecting. You're gonna who's gonna stand the hell up after you get punched in the mouth? It's like, yeah, I said it earlier. There's a game plan until there's a game plan. But going back to what they've done offensively this year, nothing we didn't see last year, nothing we didn't see the year before, and nothing we didn't see in Mark's freshman year. Obviously, Mark's not running the ball as much as you guys are accustomed to. I think that's because he's an old man now, and your goal is to go back to back to back. And the only way you're doing that is if you keep 11 upright. So I think we're getting into these colder months where you're playing better opponents. You're playing in your conference now where Mark's going to start running the ball. So I just, from a coordinator, from a play calling standpoint, there's nothing to really answer your question with because nothing's been different. And when he stepped into the role, like I said, you feel a lot of pressure. I don't want to screw this thing up. I don't want to be the reason. I don't want to be the reason Jack's fans are pointing their finger at me and saying it was him. It was him. He didn't let Mark do this. He didn't let Mark do that. No, I'm going to give Mark everything that he has because he knows the playbook left and right. He could write it backwards. He could write it in French now. And same thing with Cam. And there's nothing special coming in this game at all. I think the most intriguing thing for me are the openers. I think we're going to get a gist of this game if Mark throws the ball on first down.
Yep.
Okay, give that some thought. Pay attention to that. If they throw the ball in the first 3 downs of the game, if they throw the ball twice, you can jot it down and say, okay, they have this. There's something here. Like, and if North Dakota State, if Cam takes a shot down the field on the first drive of the game, or goes play action on 3rd and 2, first drive of the game, okay, right? This is something to pay attention to. But if it's the same old duo inside zone, buckle up. You got 4 quarters of just literally punching each other in the face and seeing who can last every bit of the rounds. So I don't know. The question, there's not really an answer to the question, man, because they've done nothing differently. It all looks the exact same. I'm so tired of watching you guys jog out on the field and have Mark throwing 12 RPO bang slants, or him throw some sort of smoke screen, or the vaunted and just disgusting play action 2-man route combinations. Like at some point, and this may be the day, and I don't necessarily think it is. Scott, you talked about what me and Kevin talked about. I'm going to wrap this one up real quick so we can move. But Chase Mason, the 5 carries, 132 yards. Everybody, it seemed like they emptied the kitchen sink. It was, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, it looked different than every other game this season, and it was a sorry Youngstown State team and on a big hobo day. So I think Jimmy was like, it's hobo day. We got 1 million fans in the stands. Let's blow these kids out, and let's put every single thing we have in our playbook on tape to make Tim spend an entire Tuesday of red zone preparing for Chase to go QB power, preparing to see. I think Chase gets a carry. Chase gets a carry, and it'll be in the first quarter. And he's going to get slapped for a tackle for loss, and Jimmy will be like, "Oh, yep, cool. They prepared for that. Not doing that again." And you just kind of want to waste. You just wanted to waste Tim's time, and I think they did that. So I think SDSU keeps it close to the vest and are going to be saying, "I think my guys are more manly than you, and this is what this is going to be." So we're going to go forward till this whistle blows, and that'll decide it.
Yeah, interesting. I think you touched on a few elements there I want to get to. The script. You know, what's the first couple series? First couple series are scripted. What are those going to look like from each side of the ball? And like you said, those will be the tells. Those will be the poker tells. I don't think either team is going to keep it close to the vest. It is kind of going to be what you see is what you get. Who's going to execute? And it has looked the same, I will say, you know, throughout Mark's career. The difference being execution. You know, is it when he lined up in the Unidome in Cedar Falls, his first game of his career, he was playing loose and free, right? Because he didn't have anything to lose. He's playing with house money, to use another poker analogy. And now you step into, he's the guy. He's done all he's really been asked to do, and then some in blue and white. And now what's it going to be when rubber hits the road, when we're in Fargo round 2, and all the expectations are, okay, lead the boys. If they shut down the run game early, don't press, continue to trust your training, continue to trust the script, what you've got in the playbook, but can you be adaptable? Can you make the proper adjustments? Because just like we threw everything at them last week to try to make them prepare for it and put more film out there, they have things they've either shown or haven't shown in terms of how they're going to attack us, right? So I think that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. How are they going to adjust to different wrinkles we put out there? How are they going to play Chase Mason? Are they going to insert more guys in the box? Are they going to start out loading the box? Are they going to roll their safeties, seesaw the safeties? What are they going to do to try to force the issue? Because both these teams, they're so similar. They want to make you one-dimensional and take away what you do best by doing what they do best. So that'll be fascinating to watch. And, yeah, I'm really curious to see how it plays out. Stack, what's your take on Cam Miller as a quarterback this year?
Like I said, I feel like this year their new head coach is really playing his strengths a lot. I think one thing that kind of shot him in the foot sometimes is he's not your traditional North Dakota State quarterback. And I feel like Entz really wanted him to be that guy. He's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, he's not like Easton Stick where you could just, give him the ball in QB power and he's going to run through someone's face and try and get that extra, like, however so many yards. Like, he's not that dude. And, like, that's okay. And I think this year he's been, like you guys said, like, he's playing with a lot of confidence. Like, he's leading the team and he's playing inspired. And I think a lot of those dudes are going to play for that, right? Like, you know, this is your senior quarterback, this last Dakota Marker game. Like, you know, this is going to mean a whole lot more to NDSU than it has since I've known about North Dakota State, right? Like this is probably one of their bigger games, I'd say, in school history, really, because it's like this is where you right the ship, right? Like this is where it's do or die time for these guys. Like they get beat, your program's in shambles. You guys are going back in the locker room looking at each other like, what now? Because like you're about to walk in here, you know, Jacks are going to go in there, smell the roasted almonds in that place, and really try and hang 30 on you guys and say, okay, now what? Cam Miller's never touched Dakota Marker. Sorry. I'm saying like, I said after that first game, we talked a couple of weeks ago. I said he was playing like he wanted to win that game. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, every game he suits up, you know, you got a dog. I will say that. Like, I genuinely believe he's cut from the cloth of a lot of the guys we've had at State the past couple championship runs where he came back. He knows what he's got. Well, I mean, why dip out on a program that invested in him, poured a lot into him, knows what type of player he is, and he's giving this coaching staff a chance to play to his strengths like you're saying. Now, I'm not going to go as far as say the program's in shambles, but for their standard, they drop another. Yeah, there's some questions, right? There's some holes, there's some questions, there's some things they got to get back to the drawing board on. Now, I think Cam Miller's going to do what he's done. He's very similar both sides of the ball in terms of the offenses, right? Their bread and butter is going to be their bread and butter, play action, try to take a couple shots deep, but by and large, they're going to try to hit you with, you know, the in routes, the crossers now and again, maybe check down to tight ends, maybe get the back out of the backfield, the rock to be an extension of the run game if we're shutting it down, because you know the Jacks have done that. But I think the biggest element we haven't even really touched on yet is going to be that third phase of the game, special teams. You look at historic matchups just, again, to see if it's an indicator of future success. Back, you know, eons ago when I played ball, we had Cole Brody blocking a punt, Cole Brody setting up a score in the Dome in 2008 when we knocked him off. We had Pete Riffenrath knocking down kicks. We had Ben LeCompte flipping the field for North Dakota State, playing lights out, and that's a game changer from a punting position when you're set up against your own goal line trying to, you know, put a drive together, especially late when you're, you know, playing behind the sticks. That's tough to do. You look at, you know, in the years past, like Stack, even when you were playing, the turnover game was pivotal, right? The team that won the turnover game tends to win the game. But specifically when you look at field goal play too, in that 22 matchup, Hunter Dustman was the guy, right? You know, Zay went down after he ran through the defense like paper mache and was, you know, stealing souls. And then we had Amar roll out there and they just couldn't touch him, right? Like he's like a water bug out there just doing his thing. Now, again, I'm going to touch on it again. Who establishes the power run game? Because to me, I love seeing the Gator back roll out there. And if he can get it done on Saturday, then great. But I don't think that's enough. Stone, what's your take? You got to have Kirby. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, my bad, Stone. I don't mean to sound, you know, I don't mean to disrespect anyone. They're not running power. Like they're not going to be successful running power on the Jacks like that. I'm sorry. Like that's just not going to happen. I'm just being for real. Like, and I don't know what the Jacks are going to do, what our run game is going to look like. I think, you know, like our best here, I love it when we run mid zone because I think that's when we're playing like Amar's strengths. Like I think he scored on one of those. That was his first score in the Fargo Dome in 22, right?
It was. He bounced it though. So that's the thing. Like Amar I don't care how you score, right? I'm not trying to criticize him. I'm just saying, really, was that a function of him? Probably a little bit, but was that a function of poor tackling? Absolutely. And that's been kind of the tail of the tape in these recent matchups is North Dakota State hasn't tackled well, right? North Dakota State hasn't tackled well. Do they step up with a little added juice in this one? Stone, what do you think?
I almost agree. I do actually agree with Stack because I don't think North Dakota State can expect to line up. I mean, they know. I think it's pretty obvious actually who's better in the trenches, and that's the Jacks on both sides of the ball. And I think what scares me in saying that is they better figure out a freaking way how to run power before before. I mean, we're a day away. They better figure it out
in 12 hours, in 24 hours.
You have less than 24 hours to figure it out because it's maybe the weakest wide receiving core the Bison have had since I don't know when. You talked about guys like Dallas. I think Dallas is one of my favorite players on the team. This secondary and how they play ball on the Jacks defensive side is a unit that's one of the best in the country. And you guys lean so heavy on cover 3. I think cover 3 is going to turn into 1, and you're going to let that safety walk down and play at 7-8 yards because there's nobody that they can beat you with. It's going to have to be Cam putting it or sticking it in somebody's face mask for them to hit a shot down the field. They just don't have those guys, so they better figure out how to run the ball. So I'm saying if you're trying to get the scripts, if your script's trying to be a little wacky, it's going to have to be early on because you're going to have to catch somebody off guard. Because eventually Dallas is going to be sitting there at 7-8 yards, and he's going to be running the alley, and he's going to pop out, and you're going to have a 2-man route combination, and it's going to be Cam trying to run the ball and not have any success doing that. And now you're going to find yourself in 2nd and 12. It's the same thing. Now you're going to get blanketed again, and now you're going to find yourself in 3rd and long. Like, if they can't find themselves in 2nd and half and 2nd and 2s and find like plays out the gates power-wise, any run scheme, then they're completely screwed. I think they do. I think they do find success because there's no other way they're getting out of here.
Well, I appreciate y'all's candor, and I know you guys both watch film, you put on the tape, and you wouldn't speak to it if you didn't see it. Scott, I want to get your opinion on this here quick, but before we do, I would like to address going on script is great. Everybody wants to adhere to it, but the money is made when you're off script, and the best player in this game on Saturday off script is Cam Miller. So y'all can say what you want about, they're going to lock him down in the trenches. They're going to have very vanilla route concepts. There's not going to be much that the Bison can do on the perimeter to stress the Jacks. But at the same time, what are you going to do? You're going to spy Cam? You're going to add an additional defender to kind of make sure he doesn't, get out on us. It's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out because Cam, when he's playing at his best, in my opinion, it's off script plus some on schedule plays, right? On schedule, off script, scrambling, extending, taking what's there, not having to bust it for 20, but scrambling for 4, 5, 6 yards and setting them up in manageable down and distance so they can get back on script. So that could be the X factor, and that's going to be something I want to see on Saturday. What do you got, Scott?
This game for me, we were talking a little while ago about how this kind of uncharted territory for the Bison. It really reminds me a lot of that 2019 game, the last time that NDSU won. It was college game day. We were on the upswing. We thought we were a lot better than we had been the last few seasons. But NDSU was still there, and it came down to punching each other in the mouth for 3 quarters and 12 minutes. And then they finally busted that big run after almost an entire game of beating the shit out of each other. It just looking at who we have in the trenches and in the front sevens, it's going to be tough for me to not pick us because, like Stack said, we've just got the guys that have been there for so long. Granted, that was 2 freshman quarterbacks for both teams in 2019 with Trey Lance and Jabari Gibbs, right? But it's just going to come down to, who can beat the crap out of each other, who can take it the longest. I feel like it, right. It just, from what I've seen, I got the NDSU game up against Southern Illinois in the background here. It just looks like if we're looking at how we've been playing this season, especially on defense, 6 of 5 Hogs have taken care of business too. It's just, I think in the trenches, both sides point to us being advantageous. Now, Fargo Dome is going to be rocking. It's going to be a rock concert the entire time there. It's going to be louder than hell. They're going to have all the juice in the world. We did in 2019, and look what happened. We just couldn't quite keep up, even though the Dana was rocking that day. There's a lot of parallels here between 19 and 24, I think.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, and we should mention Trey Lance, greatest college football season ever assembled in 2019. by any player. Just unreal. I don't even think he had a turnover that year. The one time I saw him fumble the rock was in that game, that college game day matchup. Now, the big outlier there being Jabari Gibbs goes down. Our backup quarterback didn't take first string reps. The third string true freshman quarterback comes in, plays admirable. He has a little keeper that he scores. Keaton Heidi, I'm referring to for the Jacks faithful, did an admirable job, but I think nobody was stopping Cade Johnson that day. He was getting off on the perimeter, left, right, and in the middle, and it nobody's going to stop him. So, they got the dub that day. But in terms of the style of play, that's a really good indicator of what this game will probably come down to. Just smash mouth football, not to beat a dead horse, but the horse deserves a little more beating on this one. I think when you look at, some of the outliers and things to kind of track as the game goes on, and y'all weigh in on this. The Jacks have played really clean lately, right? Really clean. And then when you flip it to the other side of the ball and the other team, Cam Miller's not turning the ball over, right? They don't have the yips as much as they had maybe in past seasons. And that'll be something to kind of monitor as the game progresses, as the crowd gets more involved in the game. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon the Jacks, like you said, in the trenches to win their matchups. So that way we can kind of quiet the crowd and get up early. What are y'all's thoughts on clean play versus penalties? Is the Fargo Dome worth a few false starts for some of the new pieces on the Jacks O-line?
I think my bad.
That's all right. Who is it? John O'Brien, I think, was across from Spencer Wagee in 22, right?
Who was lining up a yard off sides every play.
No, that's true.
I hate that. I hate that.
That's true. But still, I think he had 3 or 4 false starts, but then he really settled down really nicely. We started coming back a little bit, and so that quieted the crowd down. But right away, boy, they were cooking, man. That crowd really helped him out a lot in that first half.
Well, and you bring up a good point. And Stone, I want to get your take on this because, y'all played best when the lights were brightest. And, you did us a favor on the Splitting Hairs podcast by delivering just a beautiful line with slaying the big fish. So, and putting them on your wall. So I would love to get some more insight on that. But when it comes to
Stone moment.
Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. But when it comes to that, you got fresh blood in there, and you got guys taking reps in a new environment. But when you look back at the 22 team, it's not too different with a lot of the key elements for the Jacks. I'm speaking here, and they were able to weather the storm. They were belt to ass, like you said, Stack. They were getting pummeled when it came to the first half, and then we shut them out in the second half. So it speaks to Jimmy's ability to make adjustments. Hopefully we see the same thing, because no matter what the score is, no matter what your play is indicative of, you're going to need to be able to make adjustments. I want to see that on the offensive side of the ball as we go off script, being South Dakota State. Stone, what's your take on all this? Like, what's your take on coming from the underdog position at SIU and really ending that, what I think 40-plus game win streak? And then what's your take on the young blood coming in there and trying to weather the storm in a tough environment?
Yeah, I'm going to try not to do any coaches talk here because I really think that's what it comes down to. But you just got to drop your drawers and let it hang. There's really no other way around it in a game like this, because both of these staffs will pull your ass out of the game if they smell blood, or if they smell that you're any bit scared, or you're not playing the way you were practicing this week. Your ass is getting yanked and you won't see the field again. So I think you really just have to let it hang and look across the line of scrimmage and say, mine is bigger than yours. I think that's how you handle this. And I do want to ask Stack this. We're talking about playing in the Fargo Dome or playing in Brookings. I think both of these teams can play in the parking lot. I don't think it's going to matter. And I don't think we see any penalties because of this or because of that being on the road. Stack, I think if you were to ask this South Dakota State team, this is where they want to play this game. Now, if I were to ask Mark Gronowski in an official team polo for the Jacks Network, where you would want to play, he would say, I want to play in Brookings, right? I don't want to play in front of our fans and everything. But no, you don't. You want to walk and knock right up on somebody's front door and take a dump and walk. Like, that's exactly what you want to do in this spot. So I think regardless if you have PT, if you've been a part of the national championship team, or you were a part of the Bison team the last 2 years. Like, it just really doesn't matter. I don't think, in my opinion, it matters. It won't be put on display. I don't think there's going to be any tells of, oh, that happened because this is in the Fargo Dome, that this happened because they're playing on the road, or this happened because they're playing at home. I don't think we see any of that, especially where these two teams are at and what they've shown us this season so far. I mean, it's tough. And I don't know what other angles you guys have spoken about prior to this, but I said this on our show, like, I don't know if there's any things to be on the lookout for. I don't know if there's any wrinkles. I don't know if there's anything to even speak about in this game. And I say that half jokingly and the other half really serious. I don't think there's any, like, we're just waiting. Like, please, can we get here already? Like, this is the biggest game of the season. Like, absolutely. Both of these teams know who they are. And I'll address the fishing thing real quick. The only thing that helped me, and I'll make it quick. The only thing that helped me in that moment, I got sacked, I don't know, 7-8 times that game, enough to get me yanked out of the game and benched. I think it helped, though, when I stood up, which I never got helped up by anybody on the Jacks team, so they're just low-class program, was the having Stack in my face and Brian in my face doing the fishing reel, but they were both so ugly. And then it brought me back down to earth. I'm like, these kids play in South Dakota. Like, in a year and a half, I'm going to go back to South Florida and I'll be okay. And everybody on that team is, like, really ugly. And that was kind of what helped me get over it. And the fans in the stands as well, kind of looking, and we're all really pale. And I was like, at least I'm not them. And then it took me, a day to kind of get over it. But that's how I handled that.
Got you. The fine print on that would be you wanted to play under Coach Beck's system.
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Maybe not. I mean, yeah, sure. I think it has a lot to do with that. I think it's why I like Eck a lot. But I don't know. Maybe that was a part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but to speak on what Stone is saying, man, about, like, playing anywhere, I think, like, bro, this is literally the reason why you come to South Dakota State, right? Like, and yeah, you can sell people on, family culture, all that stuff, and we'll play at this big stadium and that big stadium. Like, bro, you come to South Dakota State versus, going to UNI or versus going to Illinois State because you want to play this game in Fargo. Like I said, you want to smell the roasted almonds. You want to look on those people's faces who don't have no teeth, right? You want to look at somebody's grandma who's dropping F-bombs at you on the sideline, and you want to go in that stadium and shut it down. Like, truthfully, I think I enjoyed playing there more than I'm done now. Who cares?
Exactly what I was trying to get at. You don't think Gus
more there.
Exactly. You just nailed that. You don't think Gus Miller's excited to hear Thunderstruck? I know Gus Miller's excited to hear Thunderstruck. It's exactly what he wants. I love how you just ended that stack. Like, I would rather play there. Like, now thinking about it, I think that's how all the Jacks feel.
I'm going to say we're not listening to Thunderstruck, but point noted, gentlemen, point noted. We do love a great atmosphere. You do love going to someone else's house and eating their food. You do love the atmosphere. You do love the storylines that are weaved in. You do. Whether or not, I know they say guys aren't paying attention to it. They're listening. They got an ear perked up. Jacks, we got big old ears, right? We used to hear all the chatter, couldn't get it done, couldn't get over the hump, right? Mm-hmm. And you're right. It's an execution game when it comes down to it, especially the style of play with these two now lofty institutions who are the cream of the crop in FCS. And I think when push comes to shove, it's just going to be who wants it more. Who's got that grit, who's going to let it hang, so to speak, to steal Stone's words. But what I want to do is dive into, Stone, a little bit of that perspective, though, because the shoe is now on the other foot for the Bison faithful. They have not been in this position, and they're trying to turn their program around, really. I mean, we've heard all the winning fatigue talk. We've heard the pleas to get into the FBS echelon. We've heard all that, right? So what is it like now? Because you guys ended their streak at SIU. You were contributor there. What is that like when you're playing that underdog role, which I imagine you played your whole life and you silenced doubters left and right? To be your size, not a dig, to play at the level you played at under an incredible.
Yeah, he's small. He's real small. So just to let the fans know, he's tiny.
You're right. Under an incredible offensive mind in Coach Hill. Now, what he deploys in terms of play calling at times makes you scratch your head, but that's neither here nor there. So what's that like, man? What's that like?
I think that plays a bigger factor into it than home and away. And I think I'll first make a statement, and I don't think there's an argument. I think the Bison, or I'll argue with anybody if there is, I think the Bison have the most pressure on them that they've probably ever felt, or at least this roster since these kids have been alive and since they've been a part of the program. It's this right here, because if you're North Dakota State and you lose this game, how many is it in a row if they lose?
6.
Yeah,
If you lose and it's 6 in a row to a team that's won back-to-back national championships, you are not sleeping that night. You are starting to doubt, and you are starting to question yourself and what this team's actually made of. If the Jacks lose, see your ass in December, right? Like that, we'll see your ass in January. We'll see your ass whenever, but we know we're going to see you. And here's these 2 right here. And this was the last 2 years. So I think the Bison have all the pressure on them because you're in your own home. You haven't beat this team 5-6 years. And you guys talked about kind of being outgunned and outmatched in this situation, but it's a pick 'em, right? There's a reason Vegas has the skyscrapers, right? It's a freaking pick 'em. South Dakota State favored by $1.50. Flip a coin. I realistically think flip a coin. I just think the Bison have more at stake. And for the kids on this roster, and I think Mark, I think Cam, I think your guys' best players all see themselves as underdogs, right? Amar Johnson wants to be running the ball week in and week out for the Oregon Ducks. He does, and he did 4 years ago, right? And he's not, and he's playing for the Jacks, and he's happy that he's playing for the Jacks. It's not at all what I'm saying, but I think everybody on these 2 rosters are all underdogs, or else they wouldn't be here. I think that's how FCS players need to treat themselves, or else you're not going to play your best ball and you're not going to find a way to pull it out of you. I think for me, when I was being recruited out of high school, Stack's right, I'm super tiny. I never wanted to play anywhere but the FCS. I was 14 years old, and I was like, I want to play in the FCS. And I would study kids' tape from the FCS. Like, I'm like him. I'm kind of like him. I'm like him. And I'm hitting up a coach from New Hampshire thinking New Hampshire's the shit. I just want to be in the FCS, and that's where I want to play. So I don't know. I think all of these kids are underdogs, every single one of them. So they're going to have that chip on their shoulder. And it just reverts to the fact that these all 44 of them that are on the field are just going to punch each other in the face for as long as they can. And Scott hinted at this earlier, or talked about how it happened historically in the past, but the fourth quarter came around and he popped a run. He talked about that being the one difference in that ball game. It's exactly what you guys should expect. It's what we should all expect. It's going to be boring. It's going to be exactly what you've seen up until this point. And in the fourth quarter, Kirby's going to lower his shoulder, lay a kid flat on his back, and go for 38 more and be on the +8 yard line. And there's going to be 5 minutes left. And they're going to run the ball 2 more times and then find the end zone on 3rd down. And now there's 3 minutes left. And the ball is back in Cam Miller's court, and that's just going to decide the game. It's going to be 1 or 2 here and there. I don't think there are any extracurricular things that are really playing into this result. I really don't. And that's just me personally.
Certainly. Well, I appreciate you putting on the Bison hat for a second there before you find the nice nearest receptacle for it. I think that you couldn't have been more correct in terms of these guys all have a chip on their shoulder. I mean, the FCS, like all the clamoring to try to get into the FBS wouldn't be occurring if this is where everybody thought they should be or deserve to be or work so hard to be. That being said, all you can do is be where your feet are. And, be you is a big mantra the Jacks had when Mark was kind of coming into his element. I hope he returns to being himself and plays loose and free on Saturday night. Couldn't be a better environment to play a football game. This is, top 2 environments in the FCS, arguably the Dana J, the Fargo Dome, and or out there in Montana. Don't know what's going on with them. But, that being said, the last cap on FCS ball, it's okay that you're feeling disgruntled that you couldn't play at the Citadel. Kevin wanted me to share that with you.
Whoa!
No, all kidding aside, all kidding aside, I highly doubt we see the Bison kick the ball to Angel Johnson on Saturday. I don't think that'll occur. It'll be fascinating to see if they pooch it. Could see that happening. I would love our guys just to fair catch that bad boy so that we can, let the offense get into a rhythm and avoid any miscues. again, special teams could be the difference maker here if both sides play clean in terms of the turnover game. And that could be the difference, right? I would love it to be boring, as you said, Stone, but boring in the sense the Jacks are up big. I just don't see that playing out that way in that environment with this squad.
I would say another thing about that 2019 game, like someone that made a huge difference in that game was Tuska, right? I think our last drive, he got like 3 sacks in a row.
That's right.
That's impressive. That's important.
Huge.
Jack's D-line, I think we can have a day like that at Jared or Max Balloon or, however many – Bryce or however many guys are going to roll in there. And I think guys that have played a lot of ball at South Dakota State and you're going against a North Dakota State offensive line that you actually have a chance to beat up on. There's not many chances that the Jacks have ever had to even when I was playing and we were winning, it was never like, oh yeah, we're about to just, when Cody Mock is there and all these, Volson and you got dudes like that, you're like, hey, I got to bring my A game. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like these dudes have a chance to really bully some North Dakota State guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You think they don't know that? You know what I'm saying?
Relish that.
So yeah, you don't think they remember hanging on double teams for 5-6 yards with Volson or Mock, pretty much fighting for your life in there? Like they remember that. Mm-hmm. And I think these guys are going to try and put hands on these dudes. Because if I'm Jared, right, or if I'm Max, I'm thinking you're not those guys, right? Cody Mock can't help you now. He's worried about who they play on Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. That's how I'm feeling. So I think our D-line is going to relish that and really take advantage of the opportunity they have as a true mismatch up front. I'm saying it.
I think Stack just gave more of an inside look or a forecast to what's going to happen tomorrow than Jimmy Rogers has the entire week, than any of these players have every single week. Because as a defense, if you know you're better than somebody, your coach, your defensive coordinator knows you're better than somebody. And I talked about them showing a lot of 3. It's going to turn into a lot of 1, and you're going to get some 0 at times. And what Stack was talking about, guys like Jared, they're going to double up on that side, and they're going to fire Cam's ass up so early in this game and say, beat us. I freaking dare you. Beat us, please. I'll give you 7 if our corner slips. I'll give you 7 if you go double move. That's fine. That next first down when you jog it on the field, I'm firing your ass up again, because every single guy we have with a hand in the dirt or standing up on the edge is better than your guy. And you got to last 4 quarters like this, and Cam's going to take lick after lick after lick. It's exactly what's going to happen because they know they're better than them. And I think to a degree, North Dakota State understands that they're not as good as them. And that's where North Dakota State, it's kind of why I built that take that they didn't do anything last week and they didn't. I watched a solid 10 minutes of it in real time, and then I had to go back and watch it. It was depressing. It was a 17-year-old at quarterback for the Salukis, but North Dakota State didn't do anything at all. And I was like, I think that's because they know they're not better than South Dakota State, and they want to throw everything they possibly can at them. And then it's vice versa the other way. So I think Stack literally just gave the inside scoop, forecasted exactly what you're going to get tomorrow. I think a few things that I want to make bets on right here with any Jacks fans, Bison fans, whoever listening right now. One, this team's going to have 2, maybe 3 times the amount of pressures in this single game than they have in the highest pressure count for any of the other games. I think, I don't know if, and this is not analytics you find in the FCS. I don't know who's willing to dig it or do it. Maybe Alex Kenkel. He's somebody who likes the numbers and can kind of find this kind of stuff. But this will be 2 times, 3 times the amount as they pressure anybody. And that's almost laughable considering they're playing one of the best teams in the country. But they're going to fire Cam up. And then 2, I've seen so many South Dakota State special teams tweets, fans talking about we have the better special teams, it'll really come into play. This game, these 2 teams have way too much pride. I will bet anybody $100 bill, $100 bill. I will sell it to you, cash out. I will do whatever you want. If they don't kick it to Angel square in the face on that very first kickoff, you're out of your mind. You think they want to show any bit of we're not kicking it to Angel? We're scared. We're not scared of Angel. No, we got gunners who are ready to kill him. This is exactly what it is. We don't want to show your staff or any of your team that we're scared of you. And that's something as little as a kick return. I mean, of course, they're going to prepare the hell out of it in practice. I'm sure they spent more time on special teams than they have, but that's inside the clubhouse kind of stuff. He's told his team on Monday, we're kicking it right to Angel. If it doesn't go to Angel, we're going to kick it to him the next kickoff, right in Angel's face, and they're going to go return it to the 22, and we're going to play some defense. No way. No way. They're going to punt it. They're going to kick it right to you guys, and they don't want to show any sign of weakness. No. If I'm a quarterback and I'm getting ready to jog out on the field, and I'm standing there next to my head coach or my OC, and I watch them pooch it or kick it to the other kid, game on. Game on. That's what this is? All right, gotcha.
We talked about tells and posture last week, so I won't hype you up with the old Polo G track that I dropped. But I will say I would love nothing more for them to kick it to Angel, because then it's like, who's going to let it hang more? Who's going to get out early? Who's going to get out? Man, I'm hyped. Let's go.
I'm ready for the boys to play.
Ready to suit up. Let's go. So, I mean, you're right. But I think strategically, I think you got to do what you do well. And maybe they want to feast on special teams to set the tone early too. You're right. You know, in my old age, I can be prone to overthinking things here. So let me continue that trend. When we look at certain things that are must-haves for both teams, obviously turnover battle, that's boring. That's coach speak. I'm not going to get into that. But when we look at $150 plus, I think the Jacks have got to establish in the run game. However it comes, it comes. I'm not going to try to make predictions on are we going to bust big ones, or is it going to be boring, consistent chunks here and there over time? And then I think on the flip side, got to hold them to $150 or under. The Jacks are averaging, I think, like 220, 250, somewhere in that range, rushing the rock. And when you look at the past matchups in the Fargo Dome, we've had that healthy run game established. So that'll be interesting to watch. What do you guys think in terms of key stats just to keep an eye on in terms of how the game flow goes?
I would say, like we said before, like North Dakota State, if they want to be successful, within the next 23 hours, they got to figure out how are we going to run the football. I don't care if it's misdirection. I don't care if it's, you just change it, but like you have to do something, because not just like Ron makes a great point. Like you got Adam Bach over there too now, who played it, one of Cam's old teammates. Like, you think he don't want to ruin Cam's North Dakota State career?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to have to run the ball, because you're not going to beat us over the top all game, right? Like, this is Coach Rogers. Think about this. Like, I know Stone, like, you don't know him personally, but Kyle, I'm talking to you. You know Jimmy, right? He's a head coach. He's the head coach of this team. Like, you don't think he's been almost losing sleep about this? Not losing sleep, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how obsessive he is. Like, he's got these guys schemed to a T. So like, they're going to have to just wow you with something tomorrow. And like, not to sound overconfident, and because this is like a good football team. Cam is a good football player, but I think like if the Jacks come out there and play how they're capable of playing, like if they play their best football, they have a chance to get after them. You know what I'm saying? Like, not like a one-score game like we got out of there. Like, I'm saying, like, we got a chance, like they have a chance to like really let them know, like, yeah, all that North Dakota State, South Dakota State stuff, that's over with.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
like,
I love that. We're gonna clip that, make that a reel. But I will say, to get back to the point, so I think everybody, for the fans, what Stack is trying to say, 2+ sacks is that stat that he's aiming for the Jacks or for the Bison. Something's got to give. Stone, how about you? And then we'll go to Scott.
I don't know if you guys have pulled this stat, but I've seen it, and I mean, I logged it. I have it written down. The magic number is $170. Every time South Dakota State has held the Bison to under 170 rushing yards, they win, right? I think it's 6 in a row with that stat. Anytime they've gone over $170 on the ground, it's 10 in a row for them against the Jacks. So there's your magic number right there. It's can you limit what I think is a weaker backfield for the Bison that they've had since some time? I mean, Shamar Brown's okay. All the other guys are okay. Cam's their best running back. So that's the magic number for me. I don't know if you have it in the holster as far as who's the difference maker, what that is, but I kind of see it as the same question. Like, what's the magic? Like, who stands out? What's the key? I swear to God, I think it's Griffin Wilde. I swear to God, I think this game could very well ride on Griffin Wilde. I do. Sounds crazy. The lanky, young, 19-year-old white kid. But, I mean, that Mark needs him bad. to slip a few tackles and go. Mark needs one of his bubbles to go for 48 in the first half. He needs Griffin Wilde to – you talked about some of the over routes. Both teams love their over routes. That's Wilde's jam. He needs to hit him on an explosive. If Wilde can then maybe find a like Wilde has the ability. I firmly believe this. And I was speaking to an NFL scout in Hammond when you guys were playing them, and Jim Nagy was there also as well from the Reese's Bowl. And I pulled, of course, he's riding on, he's clipping Mark. He's getting videos of Mark, and Gus got some shine here. And I went over to him and I was like, listen, Amar Johnson's going to play in the NFL. Like, we're going to see him pop up somewhere in 5-6 years, whether it's a special team or whether he's like the Xavier Gibson type for the Jets. Like, we'll see Amar somewhere, but you'll be back. It won't be in Hammond, but you'll be in Brookings. And I told Jim Nagy this. I said, you'll be in Brookings in 3 years, and you don't know who I am. You won't know who I am, but I swear to God, you're going to remember me when you're back in Brookings in 3 years for Griffin Wilde. He's already put on like 15 pounds. He's cut. He looked like a dweeb last year, and he's sneaky fast. And I think he's a guy who could legitimately play in plenty of FBS offenses. It's just not the style and the scheme that's really built for him. But I think he has a chance to take a top off a defense and kind of be the difference maker in this game. I don't think there was a receiver on the field as smooth of him in this game, and I don't think there's somebody who's as fast as him route running and kind of down the field and has a feel for the ball. Like, I think Griffin Wilde could literally change this game.
Well put, man. And I think it's going to be Griffin Wilde for a different reason. I think he's going to free up Graham Goring. I think the connection that's been established with Graham Goring, and that's not taking anything away from Griffin, that's actually lofty praise, because Griffin's going to draw some attention either early or late that will free up our other playmakers, I think, to take the rock and move it down the field. Now, I think that could very well be Amar's chance to shine in the check down game, because Mark has been doing a really good job of taking what the defense has given him lately to kind of start to set up some momentum in the passing game. Hopefully it shines on Saturday night when the lights are brightest. Scott, what do you got on that?
Yeah, I like that Griffin Wilde pick, especially drawing a lot of attention. Mark has been really hitting those passes, those deep post routes to Graham really well the last few games. It seems like those two guys have really established a really good connection. But as far as like maybe one particular player, I think it's going to be Dallas Beanham again, because I think Cam's going to have.
He was my number 2.
Yeah, I don't think that the Bison are going to be able to establish much of a run game right away. They're going to have to try to open up something. And I think Dallas is going to be sitting there waiting, because I don't know how mobile Cam is going to be. I mean, he said, great, he's feeling better now than he was a week ago. Well, he should, because that's how the human body works. It heals over time, right? So he might still not be quite 100%. I don't know how they're going to establish much of a run game unless, like Stack said, they found some sort of crack in the armor where they can exploit something and really hit it big on some runs. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think they're going to have to try to go over the top, and someone in our secondary, probably my pick is Dallas, is going to be waiting. And that's going to be it's going to be a back-breaking, especially if we're up late in the game, that's going to be a back-breaking turnover. And there again, that turnover statistic, I think we have in the last 5 games, 9 turnovers that we've caused, and they don't have a 1. So that's maybe a little more coach speak, win the turnover battle, but it's cliche for a reason.
I want to add, I love that Dallas Beanham was a close number 2 for me. I also bet a Bison fan $100 right now that Dallas Beanham does or doesn't have a pick. He'll get one. He'll get one, whether it's late game, early game. Beanham will find himself one. I mean, this is like, I think something that when I talked about 5-10 minutes ago about there's really nothing to look at coming into this game. Like, there's nothing that stands out. The one I think that I would give to an audience that wouldn't know to look for something that I want to look for something, it's what these North Dakota State safeties do. And when you talked about Graham, it kind of triggered this for me. The Bison are the only team in the FCS, and I've had this told to me by my former head coach, Coach Nick Hill, my offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, but Hill multiple times. And we even spoke about it like a month ago. North Dakota State is the only team a week ago because they play North Dakota State. They're the only team in the country who plays cover 4 the way that they do. It's the most disrespectful thing that any team in the FCS does. And it's take these 2 safeties and sit them at 8 yards. They're begging you to go over the top. They're just begging you. They want to give you 1 or 2 plays because they know they'll break your back later on down the road at some point during the game. They'll take advantage of. But Griffin and Graham have a real shot, one of them, at going over 100 yards because they don't get away from it. They're going to sit in 4, and those safeties are going to be nowhere to be found. They want to run the alley. They want to come meet Kirby at that linebacker level. They want to hit you at that. Yes, they do. That's all they want to do. It's all they ever want to do, and they're going to do it for 4 quarters straight. So I think Graham and Griffin, like I said, have a real shot. One of these kids. I don't know if they've done it this year. I think maybe Willie has gone for over 100. It probably wasn't against somebody of value. But
it was against Oklahoma State. My dog, put some respect on it.
I did know that. I did know
like
that.
140 or something like that game.
Bro, he tore them a new one.
Yeah.
He did.
But everybody does, to be fair.
But seriously, I mean, please pay attention to this North Dakota State team. I swear to God, when the third quarter comes around, if they're down 20 points to the Jacks, they will be in this cover 4 look where these safeties are just sitting there. They look like linebackers, and they want you to take a shot. So Mark, off the play action, he's one of the best play action, if not the best play action quarterback in all of the subdivision, is going to be able to pull one, get into a drop, and let one fly at either 18 or 12. And I think he has plenty of success doing it because they want you to.
Well put, man. That's expert knowledge that we like to see dropped on this pod, that we highlight those X's and O's like that. Ron brings up a good point. Ron, friend of the pod, appreciate you weighing in, my man. Cole Payton. Cole Payton's been kind of an enigma for the Bison in these games, turning the ball over, trying to sprinkle them in. And then, obviously it creates a little bit of disjointedness in the offense for them. I'm not a huge fan of when you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't really have one. So now they've established Cole Payton in the run game year after year now. So it's not terribly new to them. It's not terribly new to anything we've seen. Obviously, we have Chase Mason that we're prepping for in practice too when we go 1v1 for a period or 2 during the week. When you look at that matchup, who's running quarterback's going to make hay on Saturday? That'll be interesting to watch. And as far as that, just kind of segueing, I would like to see some fun wrinkles. The South Dakota State, North Dakota State games have passed, whether it be the quarterfinals, semifinals, whether it be in Brookings where Pierre Strong Jr. had that nifty little Coach X style play, tossing a touchdown pass to Tuck. That was fun. Seeing the I don't even know, Statue of Liberty play. The Jacks have run.
The hide the midget we had, I think. No offense, no. But,
all good.
Hide the midget we did in 2016.
Yeah, man. So it'll be fun. Hopefully we give the fans a treat in more ways than one, whether it's a resounding dub or a highly competitive game that results in, who has the rock last. So I think we all kind of touched on our players of the game. I'm going to weigh in with mine. I'm going to say this one will be Mark. This one will be Mark's. It's his last go in the Dome.
Love it.
And he's gonna make hay while the getting's good. So Mark's my guy on defense. I'm not going to be cute. I'm just going to go with Bach because I think second-level defenders, namely the linebackers, whether it's dropping curl to flat or taking away the tight end check down game with running backs, whatever it is, he's going to have to eat. He's Mr. Reliable. He runs sideline to sideline well. And is he going to be able to track down Cam Miller when, play breaks down and he tries to extend the play? That'll be obviously the matchup that I want to see on the defensive side of the ball. You guys got your alternative picks? I think you have Wildy, Stone. Who you got on defense? It could be either side. Could be for the Bison too. You let us know.
I mean, there's nobody on that Bison defense that scares me, and I'm not well versed enough name-wise as far as guys in the trenches. I do know JP for you guys. I mean, I've watched him, and people have told me to kind of tune into him and pay attention, and I have throughout the season. But nobody on the Bison D. I mean, I'll make it quick too because I touched on it, and I think, I know Scott did as well. But Dallas Beanham, he's going to get himself a pick, and he's going to kind of be all over the place. And to speak to Stack's point about these guys knowing they're better than the guy across from them is exactly why Dallas Beanham is going to play really well. because the passing downs when North Dakota State's on offense are going to be so obvious, like so obvious, where I think South Dakota State hides a lot of the RPO game and hides some of the play action. And when they want to boot Mark out and maybe the draws with Mark, like they can kind of catch you off guard, especially if they're running the ball really well, right? The Bison, the passing downs are going to be so obvious because they won't have success on first down. They might not have success on second down, and it's going to be third down. And I talked about a lot of 3 turning into 1. Well, now you're able to walk Dallas down, whether he's to the field or to the boundary. And I think if I'm the DC here for the Jacks, I give him carte blanche to kind of do as he pleases, like see ball, find ball, because both teams, a lot of 2-3 man route combinations. There's not much for Dallas to be worried about. We're already manned up. Like if they get beat, they get beat. I've already been told I have carte blanche to do what I want. So he's going to be looking at Cam's eyes and trying to find that ball. So you'll see Dallas put in a lot of different places, up on the line of scrimmage, back, middle of the field, kind of cocked to the boundary, hiding. Dallas beat him is my pick on defense. And I think because of the way he's going to be able to play in this game and the amount of confidence that he has just in general, he'll make a difference.
Solid. Who you got, Stack?
Y'all know me, man. I'm a defensive lineman. I'm a defensive lineman at heart.
Good.
Dude.
We good.
Daniel, I'm gonna have to agree with you, man. I go Jared DePriest. You gotta follow your senior captain, defensive tackle. It's North Dakota State. You know what I'm saying? Like to impose your will all game, you're gonna need someone to look to. That guy is Jared DePriest to say first quarter, there's no shot you run the ball, right? You want their coach to say after that first series, okay, yeah, that whole game plan we had about running the ball, throw that away. We're not doing that. Right. So I got to go with Jared DePriest. And really, I'd like to go the entire defensive line, but we're picking one guy. So I'm going to go Jared DePriest. And then on offense, I'd like to say Amar. Last time he was up there, like he had himself a day. You know what I'm saying? Like Isaiah got hurt and he said, all right, bet. You know what I'm saying? Like that was his attitude. Like Isaiah's hurt. All right, cool. My time. Let's do this. Right. And I think, if he comes and plays with that swagger like he always has in the Fargo Dome, things are going to look good on the ground for us. So,
well put. Scotty, who you got?
Well, Stone took Dallas. Stack took DePriest and the rest of the defensive line. What about 2-2 Claiborne, right? Kobe Claiborne.
No, are you saying Humphrey?
Oh yeah. Humphrey. Jeez, we got too many Kobe's around here. Kobe, right? Humphrey. That's who I'm.
He's a monster.
Dallas will have a big play late in the game. I'll say Humphrey will shut him down everywhere else on defense. Offense, Angel. He'll be returning punts and kicks. He's going to be frustrated if he has to keep fair catching because Bison probably have pretty good coverage on special teams. Angel on offense because he's going to want to explode if he's contained pretty well on special teams. And special teams, I'll pick a player of the game since no one else has yet. This is not exciting. I'm going to say Hunter Dustman because he is going to pin them deep. Watching him at the Unidome was incredible. It looked like I was watching Torrey Taylor from 2022. I think he's going to stay consistent. He's going to keep pinning them deep.
Lofty praise for the Dustman, and I think we all would echo that down the line. I mean, when you're handling every single aspect of the kicking duties, and you're doing so at South Dakota State, known as the Fighting Vinatieri affectionately, I think that's pretty impressive in and of itself. So we're going to go with him. Let's knock these score predictions out really quickly. I know there are some pods that have been out there that have picked against the Jacks, which is wild to me, but
I don't know how. We're not even going to talk about it, man.
It does be like that sometimes.
So
we'll start with you, Scotty.
First, I was thinking this was going to be a little bit higher scoring of a game just because the Bison offense looked so good. Our defense, man, I don't know that they're going to really be able to put up without some freak plays into the upper 20s or anything. My guess is 29-21. Good guys.
I was going to go 28-10.
Oh, nice. Okay, what you got, Stone?
I haven't looked forward to this. I mean, I love you guys. I've enjoyed our chat. But now I'm starting to get stage fright. I'm starting to get a little nervous, and I don't really get nervous.
It's okay. Talk yourself through it.
That's exactly what I'm going to have to do here. I'm just going to – I think – look, I'm stuttering. I think South Dakota State holds a lead in this game. I think it's boring in the first half. I'm calling like 10-10, but I think North Dakota State finds a way to do it. I do. And part of it is the coaches speak execution standpoint. You talked about, Kyle, he's so good off script. To Cam Miller, that's what execution is. For me, when I was playing and coach talked about execute, I'm keeping quiet because I'm like, my execution's doing some weird shit, ducking under a sack and going to find 8 yards on like 3rd and 8, like on my feet. Like that's what I consider execution because that's what I'm best at. That's what Cam Miller's going to do. Like I think for me, the turning point was that ETSU game. It was almost like watching the Patriots when Tom Brady was at his best. I mean, you just knew what the hell was going to happen. Like when Rodgers was at his best, you just knew what was coming, right? Like we're screwed. They have that feel to him. Cam has that feel to him this year. I think even if the Jacks go up 10 or 14, the Bison will have the ball in their hands last and have something to say about it. I got 28-24 the Bison.
All right. Well, we don't
want to censor anyone's freedom of speech. We'll let them have it.
Yeah.
Oh.
We may or may not invite you back. We may have to poll the crowd here on that one, but I do agree. I mean, I think he is a gamer and he's been the dog this year, and the top dog's going to eat. And what do they say? A hungry dog eats. And I think the Jacks have been well fed over the years. So I don't know. I'm not going to pick against the dogs because my dogs are not ones to pick against typically. But I think if I had to, just give a quick synopsis, it's going to be a battle of wills. It's going to be a battle of wills. And I think Cam completely is playing lights out. I think this is his last go round at home. He's going to want to light it up. I think he'll get his, but I think the game's going to come down to 27-24. A kick late or a kick at some point in the second half, unfortunately, is going to be what seals it. Hunter Dustman's leg, putting it through the uprights, silencing the old women and children, putting them to bed after they've gone looking for dinner. Shout out to the program for those of you who understand what I'm talking about. So that's my pick for the game. All y'all, appreciate you for joining me on this fun discussion for the marker game. The best kept secret in terms of a rivalry, I would say, in the entire U.S. for this level. And I think it's not going to be much of a secret on Saturday, even with UGA Texas going on. I think quite a few eyeballs are going to be on the Jacks in the Dakota Markers showdown. So with that, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors again real quick. Unimark Insurance, they're doing their 111th. Whether it's protecting your health or life, they've got customized plans designed just for you. No complicated jargon, no hidden fees, just peace of mind, knowing that whatever comes your way, you're prepared. They got you doing their 111th. Reach out to them. Shout out to Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro. They got a spot on Main for you to get your Go Juice in for the game day. They've also got their fall eats. Their seasonal menu is out. Getting close to wintertime here, so make sure you stay warm and cozy with their beverages. I know it gets chilly up there, up north. Down here in the South, we're living the dream with lovely fall weather. I know you are too, Stone. So go check them out, Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro. Thank you for supporting the pod. And with that, gentlemen, go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Go Jacks.